here. We might still be waiting on a couple of people, but to be honest, we don't have a quorum today, so we might as well get started and people can get to where they need to be later today. I want to welcome everybody to the meeting of the New York State Hearing Aid Dispenser Advisory Board. We'll do an introduction first. Can we start? How about we start in Buffalo and move to New York City, and then we'll finish up here in Albany.
Okay, hi, I'm Ann Orsini. I'm the director at Hearing Evaluation Services of Buffalo.
New York City, and I know we have a new board member in New York City, so when we get to Peter, if you want to take a couple of seconds and just kind of speak a little bit more, tell us about yourself or whatever, you're welcome to do that. You don't have to, but you're welcome to. New York City.
Okay. My name is Peter Fisher. I've been a hearing aid dispenser for 38 years. I have an office in Garden City, and I've been active in legislative concerns for a long, long time. So it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Welcome.
Okay, I'm Anthony Massera. I'm a audiologist and hearing aid dispenser from Westchester Audiology in Rye Brook, New York.
Anna Kim. I'm an otolaryngologist at New York Eye and Ear Infirmary.
Arnita?
Want to hear from guests?
Arnita Gann, Department of State.
Sure, we'll hear from guests. Go ahead, Jerry.
Thank you. My name's Jerry Bergman. I'm pleased to be here. I attended your last meeting, and thank you for having me. I am currently president of the New York State Hearing Loss Association. I'm on the board of the New York City Hearing Loss Association chapter, and I'm the founder of the Hearing Accommodation Task Force of HLAA and chairman of the Induction Looping Committee.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to Albany now. Keith Simon, representing Secretary of State Cesar Perales.
Whitney Clark, Director of Licensing Services.
Melanie Grossman, Outreach Consumer Protection.
Amy Tetseby, Supervisor of Licensing Services.
Jody DeLallo, Department of State. Carol Fansler, Department of State.
Donna Zoller, Department of State.
Mark Mastrobuno, Department of State.
Florence Butler, Consumer Representative.
And I'm Jim Hines on behalf of the Commissioner of Education.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. We do not have a quorum this morning. We need 7 people. We're 1 shy. So we do not have a quorum. Therefore, the second item on the agenda, which is the approval of the November 6, 2000 meeting summary, cannot be done at this time. We'll hold that off until our next meeting. Hopefully we'll have a quorum at that point, and we will do whatever meeting minutes need to be done all at one time. Before we get into our subcommittee reports, can I just remind everybody that here in Albany, we need to pass around the microphones, so everybody kind of try to remember to do that. Only have one person talking at a time if we can. It certainly makes for better hearing for everybody. And in New York and in Buffalo, and I know Buffalo has already done that, but in New York, if it's possible to mute when you're not speaking, that helps out also, because any kind of shuffling of paper noises or things like that kind of make the microphones go on and off and make it tougher to hear. So if we could remember to keep it muted, or if we can, that would be great. Just remember to turn it back on when you want to speak. And
Keith, before we...
Sure.
Keith, before we mute, is there any way you can adjust your camera? Because we can't really see you or Whitney.
That's on purpose. Yes, hold on a second. Oh.
How's that?
There we go.
I should have got some makeup on this. Kind of a glare. Okay. All right, with all that being said, Let's move on to the subcommittee and department reports. Whitney Clark would like to speak first about some announcements that she has.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. It's been a while since we met. We've had some changes in the department and to the board. So Peter, on behalf of the department, welcome. It's been a while since we've had a new member, and we're looking forward to getting to know you and to working with you more on board business. From the department perspective, I think this is my first meeting in my new position. For probably the last year, I've been serving as the Director of Licensing Services. Previously, I was counsel to licensing. That position is now held by David Mossberg, who unfortunately couldn't be here this morning, but he will be attending future meetings, and he's going to be your go-to person with any legal questions about board business. We also have a new Chief of Enforcement, Ernita Gant, who's in the city, is now overseeing the investigators. She'll be giving us her department report. So welcome, Ernita. And on behalf of the department, I'm looking forward to a very active year. So welcome.
Thank you. Before moving on to the next thing, I did kind of leave something out that I probably wanted to mention. Whitney kind of alluded to it. We do have a new member. We have one who had been replaced, who had been with us since the outset or the onset of this board. And I just want to go on record because I'm sure he's watching this being streamed live today. Dr. Alio, he was a great help. He will hopefully continue to be a great help to this department, but we do want to thank him for all of his service, all of his time, and so I wanted to go on record to say that for him. Our next agenda item is a subcommittee update from Jody.
Good morning. There's an education exam subcommittee that was formed to work on the curriculum and then work on the state exam. So the subcommittee has held meetings. We did a lot of work via email and then had some conference meetings to go through the curriculum. I think one more meeting, we'll finalize the curriculum where we still have some infection control issues to work out and agree on some changes there. It's been difficult. We've been meeting since June. It's been difficult. This last meeting, we've had some difficulty getting dates that we can all attend. So I'm going to send something else out, Anna, and just confirm something and then see who can join us, because we definitely have to move forward to finalize the curriculum. And after that, we'll start work on revising the exam. So we're moving along. We're doing good. That's it.
Thank you, Jody. Ernita, would you like to discuss the enforcement update, please?
We can't hear you. You're on mute.
All right, can you hear me now? Sorry, we were muted.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so since our last board meeting, we received 9 complaints against hearing aid dealers. One of those complaints were abandoned. 1 complaint was withdrawn. 1 complaint has been forwarded to hearing and is pending calendar. We have 6 open investigations that are currently under investigation. The gist of the allegations involves the refunds, complaints of not getting a refund, complaints of misrepresentation of fees. We have 1 criminal conviction allegation and another unlicensed activity allegation. That's about all that I have to report for the enforcement.
Thank you, Ernita.
Welcome.
Okay. We want to move on to some our action items now. We have one for T-coils and technology that Whitney would like to speak about.
During our last meeting, we had some great discussions about T-coils and the benefits of this technology to hearing aid consumers. So what we'd like to do for 2015 is to form a subcommittee to look into ways that we can do outreach to the public and possibly strengthen our regulations. We have included in your folders 2 publications that the Department of State currently circulates. They both make some mention to telecoils. They could certainly be strengthened. This morning, Florence handed me another brochure, the telecoil, that looks so it's distributed by the Hearing Loss Association of America, that is certainly much more expansive. So this is one option the subcommittee could look at, making brochures like this available both on the department's website, possibly requiring that these brochures be placed in dispenser's office, and possibly partnering with the Division of Consumer Protection to make these brochures available at public events. So I'd like the subcommittee to consist of Division of Licensing personnel. I'm going to volunteer Dave Mossberg, our legal counsel, since he's not at the meeting. And we'll try to find, yeah, it does happen. And we'll try to find at least one additional representatives. And Florence, since you've been so instrumental in bringing this issue to our attention, I'd like to ask you to serve as well, if you're interested. If there are any other board members, would anyone else be interested in serving on the subcommittee?
We need somebody from the professional field as well, the hearing.
Yeah, we probably do need at least one dispenser.
All right, I'll jump in on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And if any of you can think of any public members who might be interested, please email their contact information to Carol. We'll try to get the subcommittee formed and have at least one meeting by our next board meeting so that we can give a status report and hopefully move quickly on developing, an agenda on this topic for the department for 2015.
I think Fred has some ideas which he may bring up later.
Okay.
About literature and what we might need for literature.
Okay.
During the public comment, Fred Goosen, who is here in Albany, I believe has some comments and some maybe some information to pass on as well. Okay, thank you, Whitney. I don't want to volunteer people. New York City, Jerry, is this something that you might be interested in?
Yes, absolutely, definitely. I've spent about 3 years now working on promoting education regarding telecoils and induction loops. I brought with me 2 brochures, one of which you alluded to, which is on the telecoil specifically, that comes from the National Office of the Hearing Loss Association. And the other is called Do You Need Help Hearing, which tells the consumer about the range of assisted listening devices available without promoting any specific products, but specifically addresses the difficulty of hearing a noise and how a T-coil works, and they can use it. So, those I think would be valuable references for the subcommittee, and if I can be of any support and assistance, I would love to do that. Thank you.
Okay, I will have Carol Fanzer, who I know you've spoken to on the phone before. Hopefully we can get some contact information before you leave, just so we can keep in touch, and certainly we'd love to have you be part of a subcommittee. Yes. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to some new business. Once again, Whitney, 2015 board agenda.
Thank you, Keith. As I alluded to earlier, I'm looking at 2015 to be a very active year. As director, one thing I'm trying to do is to better use our respective advisory and regulatory boards to make them more active and more of use to the department. So what I'd like to do for 2015 is I'd like to come up with a specific agenda of topics we'd like to address, things we might like to cover. T-coils is one of them. Another one that I'd like to throw on the table is for the past several legislative sessions, there have been various bills circulating to permit physicians to dispense hearing aids for a profit. So I'd like to start looking at that, get some advice from the board on how the department should be looking at that bill. And another thing we're possibly looking at from an enforcement perspective is doing continuing education audits of hearing aid dispensers. This is something we've done in the past for our other disciplines that do have a continuing education requirement. We conduct random audits of real estate brokers and salespeople, real estate appraisers, and in the past we have audited home inspectors. I don't believe that we have audited hearing aid dispensers, at least in my tenure. I've been here for 10 years. So we're looking at possibly doing that. But I'd like to really encourage all of you to give some thought. If you want to volunteer something today, great. I'm not going to put you on the spot. But give some thought prior to the next meeting of issues you think are of a concern to the hearing aid dispensing industry, dispensing audiologists, and the public, so that we can be of better use to you and you can be of better use to us, so that we can have a vibrant and active board for 2015.
This is Buffalo. We just wanted to say Sean is.
Sorry I'm late.
Hi, Sean.
That's all right. Welcome. The next thing on our new business is consumer issues. We have Melanie Grossman here. She's from our Division of Consumer Protection. And I'll pass it over to Melanie.
Taking out name tags.
Two of them at once. That's a name.
I'm Melanie Grossman. I'm with the Division of Consumer Protection, and I just want to bring up quickly for the board to think about something this coming year. We're finding a lot of complaints when I'm out speaking with the public about how long it takes to get an appointment to either get your original hearing aid or to have it fixed or adjusted. People are complaining that the offices that they're seeing are taking a week or 2 weeks to get back into the office to be adjusted or to get their original hearing aid, and it's making folks uncomfortable because they're finding that they're uncomfortable driving or they can't hear the phone in the meantime, and it's really putting a big problem focused into their lives every day because they can't go on with their day-to-day activities until everything is fixed hearing-wise. So I just wanted to bring that up, and that's really what I'm hearing complaint-wise out in the public, but I will continue to offer the information you give me, and I'm very pleased to be sitting here so that I can answer questions when people have them when I'm out in the public. So feel free to reach out to me if you have a consumer issue or you think there's something I should be sharing with the public, and I speak with folks of all ages, all demographics, and all locations of the state. So the message will get out there to the intended parties.
One of the problems that we've run into with installing loops is that we find people not aware of what their T-coil is, and then it sometimes is not turned on by the audiologist.
Okay.
So we're back to, we haven't made any progress there. So I think trying to get more literature out there will help.
Okay, great. I'm certainly happy to share the literature as it comes through.
Thank you, Melanie. Okay, we're up to the public comment period, so I guess a little ground rules. We could start here in Albany. If whoever wants to make a comment, we have a little podium if they go up to that, because I think we can get a good camera angle there. Hopefully as close as Whitney and I are. Please, if you give us your name, we'd appreciate it, and we just ask that you be, brief, somewhat. Albany, Fred, I know you had mentioned you had comments, you had some information you wanted to share. Barbara, whoever wants to go up to the podium. Can we ask you to take a microphone if it'll reach? Keep pulling, it shouldn't go down on the
Good. Okay. My name is Barbara Ahern. I am here representing the Hearing Healthcare Alliance, an organization of non-audiologists and audiologist dispensers in New York State, and one of the primary groups that put together this law that you all work under and the law that established the advisory board. We worked very carefully on the language that put together this advisory board and set out in the law certain things that the advisory board would be there to provide advice to the department on. So Whitney, I'm delighted to hear that you are going to use the advisory board more in that way, and we are very happy to see the board meeting again, since it has not met since November of 2013. But our remaining concern is with the current membership of the board. There are a lot of vacancies on the board. There are a lot of people that were on from the beginning and are no longer here, and so that's a lot of gap and a lot of knowledge that's no longer available. The board is supposed to be, I think, very representative of different kinds of professionals that are dispensing hearing aids, and there are positions for 4 audiologist dispensers and 4 non-audiologist dispensers and 2 otolaryngologists who can dispense under current law as long as it is a non-profit dispensing. There currently are 2 otolaryngologists on the board, but just 2 audiologists and just 1 non-audiologist dispenser. And I think that we have tried to work with the department, seeing some of the vacancies, particularly in the non-audiologist dispenser position, to try and get those positions filled. Those positions are filled 2 by the governor, 1 by the Senate Majority Leader, 1 by the Assembly Speaker. And there had been an offer some time ago that the DOS people that work with this board would take recommendations for people that they might run through the governor's office, and I'm not sure what happened with that. About a year ago, your community outreach person at DOS responded to me that there were 2 non-audiologist dispensers that were under consideration by the governor. I don't know if that is still true, but I think we would like to know if there is a route to get those appointments made, and I think that we will take it on ourselves, seeing the current composition today, to see if we can get another appointment of a non-audiologist dispenser by the Speaker of the Assembly. So if there is anything that you can respond to there, I think we would be happy to work with you. I would say that although we do not primarily represent audiologists, the same thing is true of audiologist dispensers. There are 4 positions, only 2 of them are currently filled, and if this board is going to be providing advice to the department on matters related to dispensing of hearing aids, I think we want to have a fully filled out board so that you are hearing all of the voices that were supposed to comprise this advisory board when you're asking for their advice. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Fred?
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Fred Goosen. I am here with 3 hats on today. I am a hearing aid specialist, a hearing instrument dispenser, and I've been in practice for over 20 years. I'm also the executive director of the Hearing Healthcare Alliance of New York, which is the combination of dispensing audiologists as well as non-audiologist dispenser. And I sit on the board of governors of the International Hearing Society, which is a nationwide and worldwide now. We have 13 countries that we're in. Association of Hearing Aid Dispensers and Dispensing Audiologists. And I welcome the return of the board. It's been a long year without you. I missed these trips to Albany. Of course, back when Shapiro did it, we always could have some nice Italian confectionaries at the end of the meeting. I realize that that's out now because you don't fit the budget anymore. But that's great. 2 issues. One, of course, is the filling of this board. I was among the people, along with Barbara and Lise Hamlin from HLAA and Barbara Kruger and Ed Alio, who sat down in 1998 with all of the other interest groups, stakeholders, to write this law 37A. And the law was based upon an assumption that we would put together a comprehensive representation of both providers and users of hearing healthcare help. The purpose of that was to help the department administer this law and this program. And it is the only resource, actually, that you guys can reach out to find, okay, what should be in this test, or what should be in CEUs, or what is the newest development. Last 20 years, the hearing aid has increased leaps and bounds. They are now fully computerized, they're programmable, they're wireless, they talk to each other, they have incredible amount of individuals control on base. None of this existed 15 years ago. None of the technology today existed 15 years ago. As a matter of fact, most manufacturers have difficulty with repairing hearing aids that are over 4 or 5 years old due to the tremendous and rapid increase in technology, especially due to the programmability of the instruments. Going back to one of the questions that consumers had about 1 to 2 weeks, they can thank themselves that they're not part of the VA system.
I do get that complaint quite a bit.
Okay, the VA system is 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And beyond that, we, International Hearing Society, we do have a piece of legislation introduced that would allow the VA to include hearing aid dispensers in their force, to also to outsource, because they're overloaded. Number one impairment of a veteran is hearing loss. And yet some of the people from my area in Kearney have to go to Buffalo, or they have to wait 6 my repair time, yes, it may be 2 weeks. Why? Because to repair a hearing aid, it's not a horseshoe job. It has to be sent to Minnesota, probably, to the lab, where it is taken apart, reassembled, and sent back. So 1 week to 2 weeks, we can't do better than that, realistically, if that is the issue. Just because of the shipping, 2 days out, 2 days back, 2 or 3 days there. So, and work all. So and we'd be more than happy to provide you with some more information about these things. We could help you understand what is the problem. Well,
that helps.
Just tell them, thank God they're not a vet, because that could be forever to get that program back. I'm delighted that the board is going to be more active. Whitney, congratulations. We're looking forward to working with you. I know that I greeted everybody early in this meeting from my 2 colleagues. We're no longer here. As you can see, it's very quiet in here, so we know Kennel's not here. And Ed Alio was not making faces. But they both have expressed to me their appreciation of being considered, and they both stand ready to help if you have questions about issues that they were involved in the last 10 to 15 years to move forward. I'm delighted that Peter's here. Peter is the president of the Hearing Healthcare Alliance of New York, very involved with that, very involved with IHS, and I think it's going to be a great addition to your board. And Peter, I look forward to working with you. Whooping, fellow induction. Last year, we invited HLAA to attend our annual conference and trade show in Saratoga, and they had a booth. We donated a booth to them so they could deal with everyone. We provided meals and lodging for 3 or 4 of them. They had a 2-hour presentation made to our 130 hearing aid dispensers that attended the conference. They disseminated a lot of information, and I think, speaking with Florence, I think she had a pretty good experience with our group. And they're very anxious to work. I spent some time working with Jerry Bergman, who was part of that group and was a presenter there. And Jerry and I talked at length about working together to develop some brochures. I had the 2 brochures with me today that he brought up, and you can take a look at what's going on there. And I know that Jerry and I said we were going to do this, Jerry, that we're going to spend all fall rewriting these things. We didn't quite get to it, but we will. And I really look forward to working with you again. And I've already invited Florence to commend to you that we want you back in Saratoga in the fall. So that's great. overall, I'm delighted that the board is getting started again. And please, I'm still a proponent. I still am a resource for the international licensing exam, which 39 other states work with. I have the information on that. It is a zero cost to the state, and I think would help possibly in some of those situations, because it is annually updated, not every 3 years, but each year. So, and I know the kind of work that's going to have to be done, Jody, to keep this thing going. Keith?
Does it include any information on ADL and induction loop?
Oh, yes. The exam deals with assistive listening devices. It talks about them. It talks about the electromagnetic system that is the base of Bluetooth. It also talks about Bluetooth, which is another potential wireless system. It talks about FM. Those are parts of the exam. The exam is developed by a group of researchers, dispensers, dispensing audiologists, PhDs, AUDs. They have a team that spends about 200 hours a year working on it, and it is broad-based. And as I said, it's used in 39 states and 5 countries. So it does approach that, and I know AHS is very interested in that. I just came back from one of our meetings in Washington, and we look forward to working with you. We're going to be down in Florida this fall, and also in Chicago next year. And certainly, I convey to them, to you, to HLNA, and all these Hamlet, inviting them to participate. But I think it's a great movement. I'm shocked. I went to my 45th college reunion. They built a $20 million performing arts center. They had ramps all over the place. They had wheelchairs all over the place. Isn't it true that when you go to performing arts, you listen to something? They had no ADA required for hearing impaired people. This is ADA. This is required by federal law. And we're hoping to work together. I did give the associate vice president a little bit of here too, but I'd love to see that, and I'd love to see this meeting as we go forward get looped. That would be a great idea.
We do need ramps for hard of hearing people too,
Yes,
as well.
We do need all those things. That's great. But thanks. That is all we have here. I'm delighted. I'm delighted the board is back together, and we hope when it gets full, we'll be able to work with it. And HHC and NYS stands ready to give you any information, any help that we could do. We have almost all 300 dispensers in the state belong to us one way or the other, and certainly we try to disseminate as much information. Mark's a great help with that, to get that out to those people. We look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Any more public comments from Albany?
Yes.
Okay.
Albany.
May I
Hold on
say
one
a
second.
word, too?
Wait, Jerry, hold on 1 second, please.
Sure.
Florence, you don't need to speak.
I just, we talk about trying to make the board full again. There is one other person who isn't here today who's a consumer representative. I guess she represents people over 50, but there is an empty spot for a consumer. I'd love some company.
Yes, there is, our public member who represents adults over age 50 is Kathleen Cassidy. She was unfortunately at a last minute, she wasn't able to come. And there is still an opening for a public member who is a hearing aid user. And I think, but we don't know the category yet. We do have one more board member who will be coming on, will be at our next meeting, but we're still trying to determine the category of which she was placed into. So we'll have that for the next meeting, though.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I was looking at the list of the board members, and we do have 6 vacancies, 5 if you take out the member who's pending. I'm going to follow up with our legislative counsel to find out if there is anything else pending. But if any of you have, resumes or contact information for people you think would be interested, please send that to Carol, because we're always happy to forward those to the appointments office if it's a governor's appointment, or to the Assembly or Senate for their consideration.
Thank you. Florence?
What I find missing is somebody with a cochlear implant as a representative, consumer representative.
Do we have anybody?
Jerry?
Jerry?
Want to move on to Buffalo. I see is just 2 board members, so we have no public comments from there. So we will go to New York City. Jerry, you had indicated a desire to speak. I'm not sure if anybody else is there, but Jerry, why don't you lead us off?
Thank you. If there's a little delay in my speaking, it's because I'm reading the captions. Thank you. I want to say hi to Fred again and thank him for speaking so highly of our collaboration last year. Good to see you again, Fred, and to be here with Peter of your organization. As I mentioned earlier, the Hearing Loss Association is very involved in education to the consumer regarding telecoils and induction loops. For several years now, we've had a national campaign called Get in the Loop. We have a very well-respected national spokesperson who's a highly qualified audiologist who travels around the country speaking. We've recently started a new looping initiative through our national office and have been compiling technical information about the specifics of induction loops and telecoils and other in comparison to other forms of hearing accessibility. With regard to what Fred said about the exam changes and the inclusion of assistive listening devices as a topic, I just would like to say it's extremely important today to distinguish between the technologies of assistive listening. Some equipment is intended for individuals to use with their proprietary hearing aid equipment, their devices. It's not something that has mass appeal. Bluetooth, for example, is entirely inappropriate to large venues such as theaters, such as city council chambers. Each time someone wants to use it, they have to sync up. So, and it also only works for people who have Bluetooth in their hearing devices. Anyone with a telecoil can turn on quietly and listen in, as you all know, when a room has an induction loop. So I wanted to say that. I also, as Carol may recall, had applied for one of the consumer vacancies on this group, this board, and nothing ever came of that. I was told the position had already been filled, but hearing now that there may be another vacancy for a consumer, I will talk to Carol afterwards about whether I might be considered a candidate for that and would be honored to serve, going through the process, of course. So I just wanted to say those things and conclude by saying that there aren't enough consumer representatives on this board, and in the final analysis, the work of this organization is intended to benefit the consumer. So I'm delighted that Melanie is here today. I'm delighted to hear Whitney speak about the importance of induction loops and that initiative. And so you've made me very happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Is there anybody else in New York City? Can't really tell from the picture.
Yes. We have Mr. Fisher, one of our board members would like to speak.
Yes,
Absolutely.
This is Peter.
Absolutely. You're welcome to speak anytime.
You know, I'm new to this, so I'm just getting my feet wet, and I'm sort of trying to learn the ropes here. I have two things that I was thinking about. One was what is involved in being in a subcommittee, specifically the one for investigating T-coil technology.
The only thing that we, truthfully, I mean, different people bring different things to the table. So there's no requirements other than, hopefully being able to attend meetings, whether they're phone conferences. Sometimes we do video conferences. Really, sometimes I suppose we could actually get together, but oftentimes it's more efficient to, use one of those other methods. It's less time out of an office for people and so forth. Everybody's busy. But no, I mean, there's no real requirements other than willing to, provide your time and expertise in whatever areas that you have that are beneficial to that subcommittee. And if you want to be on one, you're more than welcome to volunteer for one.
Yeah, I'd like to volunteer for that one. I've been utilizing loops for my 38 years dispensing. I have one in my office. It's amazing to see the look on people's faces when they realize what they've been missing because they haven't had the privilege of being exposed to a loop. The other thing that I want to bring up was the matter of repairs and repairs being done in a timely fashion. Today we have a variety of different hearing aids. Some of them are what we call custom hearing aids, which means that they are built to each individual's specifications, whether it's their anatomy or the requirement for the acoustics. They're a little bit more difficult to repair and could take quite a bit of time to turn it around. On the other hand, hearing aids that are fit behind the ear, most of the manufacturers give you the option of requesting a replacement rather than a repair on your hearing aid. Some people find they would rather have theirs repaired because they don't know what the status of the replacement is going to be, whether it's going to be as reliable as their present hearing aid. Other people opt for the rapid turnaround because then we can usually send a hearing aid out on Monday and have it back by Thursday or Friday, which is what a lot of people desire, especially people who can't get along without their hearing aid. So I just thought I'd add that to the discussion about hearing aid repairs.
And if I can add one thing about the hearing aid repairs, yeah, it does take a little bit of time, turnaround time, depending on the type of hearing aid it is. But in my practice, and you guys can tell, the consumer that they can request a spare hearing aid. I have sets of spare hearing aids that when a patient is going to be out a week or two without their hearing aids, I'll lend them a spare. So they can ask the practitioner, whether it be a hearing aid dispenser or an audiologist, to see if they have something that they can wear while they are, while their hearing aid is being repaired. Most times it's going to be a behind the ear hearing aid because, we don't have custom hearing aids that will fit everybody. So, but at least it'll be able to carry them along. So if they have any fear or trepidation about, driving or whatever, like you said, at least they'll be able to hear. It won't be perfect, but it'll be better than having nothing.
Does everyone offer that, or is that just something that you choose to offer?
In all the hearing aid practices I've ever worked in, whether it be large or small, and now being on my own, we've always had spares laying around. Some of them are not pretty, but they do the job, and they bring in sound. You may be a little bit off balance at times, but we try to balance it as best we can, especially if it's a digital hearing aid, computerized hearing aid. But you can tell the consumer. They can certainly ask. I'm sure that any audiologist or hearing aid dispenser that's been in practice a long time has got to have a couple of older BTEs laying around, behind the ear hearing aids, laying around that they can give a consumer while their hearing aids are out for repair.
Could there be any negative implications with taking a random set from a doctor, from somebody? I mean,
I don't think so because I do it all the time. I try to do the best that I can to balance the hearing aid.
Sure.
I mean, it needs to be reprogrammed to that patient's hearing test results, obviously, and then tweaked and fine-tuned. So you do the best that you can, and most patients are very appreciative of the fact that, even if it doesn't work perfectly, they have something in their ear, and
Absolutely.
I've never seen any negative things come of that.
Okay, thank you.
I have some comments from Buffalo.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Ann.
Okay, so first of all, I'm very glad to see that the board's back together and that we have we're looking for a very active year, and we have some great items on our agenda. I don't know the formal process of adding an item to the agenda, but I do think that there is one item that we're overlooking that I would like to see added, which is an addition to the current statute stating that any hearing aid fitting has to be verified in some method. I'm very, very familiar with the statute. It has a lot of consumer protection, but I think it's missing the largest protection, which is ensuring that an audiologist or a hearing aid dispenser who fits a hearing aid has actually done some verification testing to ensure that that hearing device is not only providing appropriate amplification for the end user so that soft speech is audible, conversational speech is comfortable, and loud is not too loud, but also that any hearing aid is not over amplifying that could cause damage to the consumer's hearing. And I know I've mentioned this in the past, but I'm not sure what the process is, but I think that there should be a discussion about the importance of maybe adding some wording to the current statute to enforce this. I think if this is a consumer protection board, we should be very concerned about ensuring that any hearing aid put on a patient is set at comfortable levels. The technology is changing a lot. The hearing aids are programmable. A lot of patients are being fit with demo units or loaner units, and we should be making sure that no consumer walks out the door with a hearing aid if it's not set properly for them. So once again, I'm asking if this could be something that could be added to the agenda this year for further discussion.
And what I'll have you do is, if you have information about this, language, things like that, if you can get in touch with Carol, we can certainly get it added to the next meeting's agenda. But any information you can get us would help. Carol can get that disseminated to David Mossberg, who is our counsel, who isn't here today, to Whitney, to everybody else here in the department who might be able to see how that fits in or what can be done with that. But so get in touch with Carol, and we'll have it, and we can probably have David report on it next time.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments?
Hi, this is Jerry in New York. Just to follow up, I've read that at the time of dispensing the hearing aid, initially, that the testing should be done speech and noise and not quiet. Could somebody address that, whether that's covered in the current regulations or is something that also might be looked into?
Yeah, we could. I mean, I don't think there's anybody here right now that could address it, so we can have somebody look into it. Can you?
I can speak to that. I can speak to that. There is nothing in the current regulation that states that any speech and noise testing has to be completed for hearing aid fitting. It's completely optional and up to the audiologist or hearing aid dispenser. One of the reasons it's probably not done on a regular basis is lack of training and the fact that there is no CPT code to cover it. So providers cannot get reimbursed for providing that service, even though it is the right thing to do. I think it's an excellent point, and I think that that also warrants further discussion.
Could I address that? This is Peter.
Absolutely, go ahead, Peter.
Okay. We have varying degrees of technology when it comes to the hearing aids that are available to the consumer. If we were all scientists and we had the option of applying the very best and latest leading edge technology, then we may want to be subject to scrutiny as to how the hearing aid is operating in situations like speech and noise. But when we have to take into account that many people can't afford the latest and greatest technology, then our hands are sort of tied by the fact that we aren't able to fit the very best. And so there's a line that has to be drawn as to what the consumer has chosen in regard to what our expectations should be.
If I can add to that, but the different varying levels of technology, again, I explain to my consumers, my patients who come in and say, if you bought the highest level of technology, you'll be able to hear better in more situations. If you explain that to the consumer, and then if you do any sort of independent, testing, speech and noise, like there is a test, the QuickSyn, which is the quick speech and noise test, and there are other speech and noise tests. You can give your patient a realistic expectation. Try to explain to them that they are not going to hear, like they did when they were 20, but they will hear better. And if the patient realizes that they hear better, then the level of technology has something to do with it. But if they see some improvement, and if you can measure it, I know that there are no CPT codes or anything like that for speech and noise testing. I do it on a regular basis in my practice. I work with a solo ENT, and he requires me to do it, but I do it, and I do the QuickSyn all the time. And it's just because everybody's main complaint today, and as the boomers are starting to come in and to their time where they are going to get hearing aids, everybody's main complaint is that I can't hear speech well in noise. So even though there's not a CPT code, I don't know if it's the right thing to make it a statute or a requirement, but I know that a lot of audiologists, and the background that I have, we were taught that you should do some speech and noise testing. But again, you have to set realistic expectations for your patients, no matter what kind of situation that you're in. And if you do that, and you're realistic, and you have them have those realistic expectations, then when they do better in a situation, you will know about it, and they will be very happy with the hearing aids, whether they are the top of the line or the mid-level or even not even I don't call them entry level anymore. I go good, better, best. So from a good to a best hearing aid, everybody tends to do better. So you just, again, have to be realistic and, have them expect realistically how they're going to do.
Thank you.
I think it boils down to being a responsible dispenser.
Absolutely. You give the patient what they need, or sometimes you can't. If you show them what they need, and they can't afford it, then you try to give them what they will do the best in, and try to fit into their budgetary parameters. And especially now with the middle level hearing aids, the better hearing aids. I noticed in the time that I've been an audiologist that the mid-level hearing aids have come a long, long way. So patients will notice a big difference, especially when they're in noisy situations.
Hearing aids are chosen not only because of the acoustic quality, but also because of their cosmetic appeal. And many of the hearing aids that are fit because they are cosmetically appealing don't yield the same results as those that are a little bit more visible and higher tech.
Thank you, everyone. Normally at this point, if there's no further comments or whatever, we would have a motion to adjourn, but we don't have enough members to make motions. So if it's all right with everybody, I will adjourn the meeting. It's 11:30. Everybody will be contacted. Carol will get in touch with people to inform them of our next proposed dates, and we'll work out one that works for everybody. Before I forget, Jerry, if you'll give us some contact information, or leave it with one of either with maybe with Ernita. If you have an email address, phone number. I'm not sure if Carol has all that. I think Carol has it, so I think we're good, Jerry. Then we will be in touch with you. Anybody who wants to send anything can certainly get it to us, to Carol, and we'll disseminate it to the proper people. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
Could I ask one more question?
Sure. Well, you might be at your limit now, Peter.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Do we get the opportunity to discuss legislative issues when we have these meetings?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Are we going to discuss anything in regard to the legislation that's before the Consumer Committee regarding physicians dispensing?
Yes.
Right.
Well, we'll have, committee meetings, we'll discuss things, and then certainly it all comes, in front of the board and for their input and so forth, so it goes back and forth. Whitney can probably speak to it better.
Yeah, what we're going to do for the next meeting is I'm going to get a copy of the bill and include it in our meeting folders. We'll get it to you in advance so you can have a chance to read it. Then I would like to have some board discussion on the bill and what your feelings are about it.
Okay, I've looked at the pending legislation, and there are some concerns that I have. I'm hoping that it doesn't get signed by the governor before we have a moment to address those concerns. And so, is that something that I should be concerned about, or do you think that we'll be able to speak about this in the future once we get everything together?
Yeah, the board will definitely have a chance to give us your advice on this before the governor signs it. We're probably looking at having another meeting in 3 months. In the event that it moves quickly, we'll try to convene an emergency board meeting so we can have some discussion on the bill.
Okay, thank you.
This is Jerry. Could I ask one final question before we depart?
Yes.
Ms. Butler mentioned earlier, very earlier, about cochlear implants. This is my second meeting now, and almost nothing is discussed about cochlear implants. I ask a two-part question, whether this board has any authority or obligation to deal with the dispensing of cochlear implants, and raise the related concern that from the consumer standpoint, there'll probably be more patients like myself who are bimodal, who have to have an audiologist for a hearing aid and an audiologist for a cochlear implant. The other night I was with a group of audiology students talking about consumer issues, and nobody knew why it is, and they were surprised that you can't go to one audiologist for both. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry.
Well, Dave, I'll get to it.
Yeah, we can have Dave. I mean, maybe I'm missing something. Are you saying that you're prohibited from going to one audiologist to look at them both, or they're just they work on different things? They're specialties in certain things.
If I can, it's Tony Massera again. They are very specialized. The audiologists that work with cochlear implants are very, very specialized in that particular facet of audiology. And a lot of audiologists don't know how to tune a cochlear implant. We're not really specialized in that. So, unfortunately, you do have to go to one or the other. But what I don't understand is how come your cochlear audiologist can't tune your hearing aid?
I don't know.
She doesn't have the equipment.
I appreciate what you say about the specialization, and I don't know the answer to the question other than that I go to a cochlear implant center at a university, and they tell me they're already losing money dealing with cochlear implants, and so they don't wish to deal with hearing aids.
Never say
that. So there's a testing issue here because I'm one person, I have one brain, and I'm trying to hear both ways. So it's just a consumer issue I wanted to put before the group.
Okay.
I just wanted to add to that that there are audiologists who specialize in cochlear implants who work at facilities that also dispense hearing aids. So there is such a thing as an audiologist who would do both, be able to fine-tune a cochlear implant and map it and fit a hearing aid. It would just be looking for somebody in a practice that does both. They do exist. We have, in Buffalo, there are places that do both. So you would just have to look for one.
Right, thank you, Ann. Okay. All right, now, maybe I will adjourn now. It's 11:36. Thanks again, everybody, and Carol will be in touch with some dates. Thank you.